Hello, hi everyone. In today's class in my YouTube channel English Literature Squad, we will discuss it about Old English literature from 450 to 1066. Important works, genres, elegies, and the background information and history about the particular these three tribes. So kindly do subscribe for my YouTube channel. See here. Celtic Britain. It means the Celts, early inhabitants of Britain. So, prior to Roman conquest, Britain was inhabited by Celtic tribes with their own language and religion. So, when Roman invasion, Julius Caesar made initial contact, but the Romans officially conquered Britain in 43 AD. Roman withdrawal, the Roman Empire, particularly the Western Roman Empire, collapsed in 5th century, and the Roman left Britain. So barbarian invention, Britain faced attacks from Fixed Scots and other barbarian groups after the Romans deported, leading instability. So this is what the main reason. And Anglo-Saxon settlement in the 5th century, the Anglo-Saxon began to settle in Britain, so marking the start of the Old English period. This period set the stage for the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms and their subsequent cultural development, including the growth of Old English literature, the spread of Christianity, and the eventual Norman conquest in 1066. So here you can see the Celts were the early inhabitants. Their language is Celtic language and Celtic religion. So when Julius Caesar visited that Britain before his death, so it means in the middle of the 4th century, but in the 5th century Romans left the Britain. So, and after that, the Ottoman Turks conquered Byzantine in the 15th century. The Celts were attacked by the Fixed Scots and Irish barbarians, leaving them without a rule. This is what the establishment of Old English literature. So, and so now let's talk about the migration and settlement in the 5th century when the three tribes settled in the England. So three tribes known as the Angles, Saxons and Jutes lived in northern Europe in antiquity. In the 5th century, they took control of Britain and made their home there. So that's why they are considered as key tribes of in English literature. And after that, they split the entire Iceland among themselves after fording the indigenous inhabitants into the steppe highlands of Wales and Scotland. The Saxons conquered the southern portion of the Iceland and established many minor kingdoms, including Wessex, Essex, and Sussex. The Jutes held the southeastern corner of the Iceland, and it means Elbe River in the present-day Germany. And the Angles settled in the East Midland. Angles settled in the East Midland. So it means Holstein in modern Germany. In Britain, seven kingdoms gradually emerged. These little kingdoms came together to form the United Kingdom of England in the 7th century. The first Englishmen were these three tribes, Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, who are together referred to as a Anglo-Saxons. So the language spoken by them is called Old English, which is the foundation of English language and literature. With the Anglo-Saxon settlement in Britain, the history of English literature it was began. So when arrival, this is what the arrival, the traditional date for the arrival of the first German settlers in 449 AD. So and led by figures like Hengist and Ossa. These two are very very important. And Pictish and Scottish invasion. These two words also very very important. And here just come to know about the meaning. Jutes believed to have come from the Jutland. Sorry, not meaning. Believed to have come from the Jutland and Peninsula. And Angles originated from the Anglian region. It means at modern day in Germany. Saxons came from the regions around the Elbe River in present day. So, and they migrated, attacked by the fertile lands and relative weakness of native Britons following the collapse of the Roman Empire, the Roman rule. So now let's see about conquest and colonization, how they conquered and how they colonized the Britain. So depicting the Britons over time, these tribes began to establish their own territories, often through force and warfare. And the native Britons were gradually pushed westwards into areas like Wales and Cornwall. Establishment of kingdom, Kent, settled by the Jutes, what I said, Northumbria, Mercia, East Anglia, established by the Angles, Wessex, Essex, and Sussex, founded by the Saxons. And the cultural integration was these inverts brought their language, customs, and tradition, which was began to merge with of those native native Britons. This is what the how Old English literature was emerged. And see here interesting facts about mm, the Old English period and characterized by synthetic inflectional language filled with Germanic words. And these four major dialects were very important: Northumbria, Mercian, West Saxon, and Kentish. So let's see one by one by taking the examples of manuscripts, literary examples and manuscripts in West Saxon. Beowulf, though originally composed in different dialect, the surviving manuscript is in West Saxon dialect. So the next one, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, a collection of annals written in West Saxon. This was written by King the Alfred. And after that, Mercian, Vespasian Firstler gloss and interlinear gloss, translation of the Latin classrooms into English, Mercian, Northumbrian, and Hymn of Cardamon, one of the earliest recorded pieces of the Old English poetry. And next one, Lindisfarne Gospels, contains Old English glosses in the Northumbrian dialect. And the next one is Kentish. Kentish charters are legal documents and charters that provide insight in the dialect. Kentish dialect. The Anglo-Saxons and Jutes saw an opportunity to fill in the gap, sorry, in the power gap, and started migrating to Britain. The Anglo-Saxons were fearless, adventurous, and brave people. And here, see, I think you are seeing the map. This is how Jutes, Angles, and Saxons, how they conquered the uh, side of the river and the land. So, the language brought by these Anglo-Saxon settlers, together with some Latin and Celtic words, became Old English, and it is the earliest period of English literature. It is characterized by its unique language, poetic forms, and themes. It includes diverse works of epic poetry like Beowulf the Wanderer, and religious text, historical chronicles, and riddles, the exterior book riddles written in Old English. The Anglo-Saxon period lasted from the 5th century AD to the Norman conquest, 11th century AD. It means 450 to 1000. Genres of Old English literature. Let's see one by one: religious, secular, hagiography, epics, poetry, elegiac poetry, and prose. So in Old English literature is like diverse with various genres. It reflects the culture, beliefs, and social structure of the Anglo-Saxon time. So when Anglo-Saxon, the genres of Old English literature can be divided into both religious and secular categories. So these two are the categories. So with each reflecting different aspects of the Anglo-Saxon life, here's an outline the primary genres of Old English literature. So now let's see the first one in a religious genre. Hagiography. It means hagiography refers to writings about the lives of saints and their deeds and their miracles. And the main significance of this hagiography, these texts were often inspire Christian devotion and provide moral examples through the lives of holy figures. Example, the life of Saint Guthlac. It's a story about it tells the story about a 7th century Anglo-Saxon saint who lived as a hermit. And the next one is religious poetry. Here religious poetry means it's about the poems with Christian themes often dealing with subject as a creation, sin, redemption, and the afterlife. So, the significance of main religious poetry is these works played a role in spreading Christian ideas using the medium of poetry to make religious messages more accessible and memorable. The best example is Dream of the Road, a poem that presents purification of the Christ from the perspective of the cross, reflecting both Christian theology and the theme of sacrifice. And after that, exterior book, religious poems. The exterior book contains poems with religious themes like the Seafarer, which reflects the on the journey of the soul. And the next one is secular genre. The secular genre especially focused on epic poetry. Epic poetry consists of long narrative poems that tell the stories of heroic figures, their deeds, often dealing with the grand themes of fate, royalty, and war. The main significance of this genre was vital for preserving the cultural values of the Anglo-Saxons, including the heroic code, bravery, honor in battle. Examples: the best example is Beowulf, written in two parts, especially Old English epic. Beowulf tells the story of the hero's battle with the monster Grendel's father, and dragon. It explores both pagan warrior culture and Christian moral themes. And another one is Widsith, a less famous epic. Widsith recounts the travels and adventures of a bard, reflecting on the heroic world of Anglo-Saxon society. And the next one is elegiac poetry. This elegiac poetry, especially poem, focus are reflective and often melancholic, focusing themes such as loss, exile, and the passage of time. The poem signifies the express the harsh realities of Anglo-Saxon life, such as the fragility of existence and inevitable nature of death. The best example in elegiac poetry, The Wanderer, a poem that portrays the thought of solitary man reflecting on the loss and his lord and kin, as well as the transist nature of life. And another one is The Seafarer, similar to The Wanderer. This poem reflects on the hardship of life, particularly the suffering and solitude of those who live by the sea. And next one is lyric poetry. Especially this is what very shorter and more personal poem, often expressing individual emotions or thoughts, sometimes related to natural or personal reflection. Yes, especially this genre allowed for introspective and emotional expression, especially conveying personal experiences. Example, the exterior book contains many lyric poems, including a collection of riddles that serves both entertainment and intellectual challenges. Poems like The Wife's Lament and The Husband's Message from the exterior book reflect personal sorrow and longing. And when it comes to prose genres, especially the main prose works that records event of people and societies in a chronological or narrative fashion. Especially the significance of this prose genre, historical prose was key for recording the history of Anglo-Saxons and their kings and the events that shaped their world. The best example in prose genre, Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. Especially this was written by Alfred the King, a year by year account of historical events in Anglo-Saxon England, detailing the reigns of kings, invasion, and their significant occurrences. And Bates' acoustical history of the English people. Though written in Latin, this work was highly influential in Anglo-Saxon England, providing history of the Christianization of England. And in prose, legal prose is there, written codes of law and legal documentation. And the significance of this legal prose, this text played an important role in organizing, regulating Anglo-Saxon society and its legal practices. Example, King Alfred's laws and legal codes written by King Alfred the Great, focusing on moral and social oriented economical issues, including rules and justice like fines and social responsibilities. So after that, in religious prose, so writer written especially on the writer written works that deal with Christian doctrine, prayers, and moral teachings. And the examples: Pastoral Care by Popal Gregory the Great, translated into Old English by King Alfred. This text provided guidance to priests on how to care for their congregations, and homilies and translation of biblical text. So this is what genres of Old English literature. And major Old English works: Beowulf, Bede, King Alfred the Great, translator and writer, prose writer, Cinewulf, Ulston of Ack, Alfric, Inchon, Caedmon, and extra book of poets, Anonymous. So almost in Old English literature, we cannot get exact writers who or they are. So like that, see the first one, Caedmon, especially notable work, Caedmon's hand. Significance, we can see here significance. Here it is, Caedmon. Considered the first known English poet. He was considered the first known English poet, and Caedmon was a monk who composed hymn praising God's creation. So after that, Cinewulf, notable works: The Fates of Apostles, Juliana, Elene, Christ II. Cinewulf, one of the few Old English poets known by his name, or known by name. So his works often contain religious themes and personal reflection. And after that, King Alfred the Great. So his notable work, Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. So although not primarily poet, Alfred's contribution to Old English prose, particularly his efforts to promote education and translate important text, were monumental of that age. And the next one is Bede. So external history of English people, especially Bede was a monk historian whose works provide valuable insight in the history and culture of English, culture of Anglo-Saxon in England. So the next, the Pearl poet, Gawain poets. So the pearls are Gawain and the Green Knight, patience and cleanness. Beowulf poet, anonymous, major work Beowulf, especially 8th century to 11th century. Especially when it comes to contribution of the literature, the Beowulf poet is one of the most significant figure in Old English literature, considered as epic. While the exact identify of the poet is unknown, because you don't know that. Beowulf is regarded as the greatest surviving work from the Old English period. So Beowulf is an epic, tells the story of heroic Geatish warrior. So Beowulf, who battles the monster Grendel's mother, and finally a dragon. The poem blends pagan heroism with Christian elements, reflecting the cultural transition of Anglo-Saxon England. The Honorable Bede, especially written around 670 to 735, major work is his lifespan, 670 through 735, and work ecumenical history of English people, especially in around 731. Bede was a scholar, historian, theologian from the Northumbrian monastic community. His ecumenical history of is one of the most important source for the history of early Anglo-Saxon England, especially written in Latin. This historical account traces the spread of Christianity in England. Especially this Honorable Vede provides insights into the lives of clearly Christian saints and the history of Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. Though not an Old English, Bede's influence of Old English literature is profound, as his writing shaped later uh, Anglo-Saxon period. And King Alfred the Great, his major works, Pastoral Care, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, especially contribution. King Alfred, one of the most notable Anglo-Saxon ruler, also scholar and a pattern of learning. Though he may not have written a lot himself, but he played a very crucial role in translating Latin works into English literature, especially promoting literature and literacy education among the Anglo-Saxons. And after that, there are so many writers and kings who were promoted the literature. Cinewulf is also one of the dream of the rude Julian Ele, the fates of Apostole. Especially Cinewulf is one of the old English poets known by name. His works are characterized by religious themes and especially often contain vivid imagery of symbolism. Especially his poetry is rich in Christian doctrine, but also draws the Anglo-Saxon cultural context. And so this is what the another writer is there. Ulston of Ark is time around 958 to 1023. His major works are sermons and homilies. Especially his contribution was very important in English literature and a highly influential figure in Anglo-Saxon England. He is known for his religious sermons and for his role in promoting law and Christian morality. About the works, Ulston and sermons and homilies were meant to guide and moral spiritual lives of the Anglo-Saxon. He also contributed to the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, especially in later years, was a key figure in law of code. And Alfric Incham is very important writer in Old English period, a translation of the Bible into English and homilies, Life of the Saints. So Alfric was influential Anglo-Saxon monk and writer. He was a significant translator also, which were written in clear Old English with the goal of instructing his audience Christian teachings. His homilies were designed to be read aloud in churches and were an important tool for spreading Christianity across England. And major works are Exterior Book and uh, these see for the Wife's Lament. So these are very important Anglo-Saxon literature. So now let's see next one, Manuscripts of Old English Literature. Beowulf is written in Novel Codex, the Junius Manuscript, the Exterior Book, the Vercelli Book, Novella Codex, also called Cotton Vitellius Manuscript. These four are the four manuscripts are in English literature are very important. And see here, elegies, Dior, Adversary and Wolf, the lament of the wife, the message from the husband, devastation, the nomad, the mariner. So especially when it comes to these elegies, the authors of these elegies from the Anglo-Saxon era are largely unknown because many of these poems are part of the oral tradition. That's why passed on to generation before being written down by anonymous scribes. So that's why there were no authors for this particular works. That's why considered as elegies in Old English poetry. And main literary features and facts of Old English period. Who was the first English literature? Caedmon was the writer. First English writer. He wrote poetry in Old English language. His only surviving work is Caedmon's Hymn, perhaps the oldest poem written in English. Caedmon's Hymn. So, what was the first work in English literature? Beowulf was the earliest, most popular epic poem composed in 7th century, around 7th century. And the decline of Anglo-Saxons. The Anglo-Saxon period lasting from 450 to 1066 because of that incident, Norman Conquest was characterized. Norman Conquest. The period ended with the defeat of Harold by William, the conqueror of Normandy, France. The Anglo-Saxon literature reflects their values such as personal freedom, religion, appreciation for humanhood, nature, and the struggle for glory. Their life was rich in courage and savagery. Most of the literary works are anonymous, and paganism dominates the literary spirit of that time. Example, Beowulf, especially traceable. And after that, kenning words are very important in this particularly Old English period. And evil is symbolized by monsters, and there is no romantic writing in this particular era. And sea adventures, savagery, and heroic activities are honored. So they used more metaphors and activities are honored, and they used more metaphors and less similes in the practice of the time. And alliteration used as the chief ornamental device for their writing, and kenning. So compound words instead of single words like word railroad for sea, love cure for king, like this. So and word like words lines do not have equal number of syllables. So and here in this particular Old English literature, end rhyme is ignored. End rhyme is ignored. So thank you. I hope all of you like it this video, and thank you. Do subscribe.